How's it going? I'm going to drop this. Okay, I'm Hannah, for those of you who don't know me. Mac, I'm just going to tell you when to switch because there's only like 3. Okay, cool. A little bit about myself before I start talking about mentorship. If you can figure that out, that's what we're talking about. I think this is the last week. Is I have a family. You can flip to the first picture. And my one child, I have 2 children. One of them is not in it because apparently I'm really bad at taking photos of my family. So that's my husband, Zach, and my little toddler, Hudson. And then we actually just had our second son. You can flip it again. And that's Elliot, and he's so cute, and he smiles a lot, and it's adorable. And we just had him at the end of October, so really close to when Joe and Taylor had Vivian, is that right? Yes, so, yeah, that's them, and I couldn't think of anything else to tell you about myself, so that's what you get, except for I've been involved to some degree with helping with youth groups since I got out of high school. And so I really love being a part of it. I love, I don't know, like discipleship and mentorship. And so when Josh asked if I would just kind of share a little bit about my experience, I was like, sweet, yes, even though I really hate standing in front of people with a microphone, but the rest of it is exciting. So, you can switch it to the next slide. I just have a general outline of what I'm going to talk about today, and yes, it's very awkward to try and talk with your hands with this. Okay, so I have had several different experiences of being able to mentor people and also being mentored by people. And so I grew up in a Southern Baptist church for the most part. I moved a ton, and so I actually would consider one of my first mentored experiences when I had, or like contact with having some type of a mentor, was actually some Sunday school teachers I had. Do you guys, there's Sunday schools up here, right? That's a thing. Rockville doesn't do it, kind of. It's not a thing. Reese is giving me this. So anyways, but essentially we meet on Sunday mornings, and I think I was like in 4th or 5th grade, but I specifically remember that these people really just loved our group, and they wanted to spend time praying with us. They wanted to share the gospel with us. They wanted to tell us about scripture, and that stuck out to me even at like 4th, 5th, whatever grade it was. It could have been 6th. It could have been 3rd. I'm not really sure. It was something around there. But, so I always remember that as being really cool, and it kind of made me think of our small groups too. So, otherwise, my experiences with being mentored were all pretty informal. I never actually had an experience where I was like, hey, do you want to meet up and talk about the scripture and hang out all the time and stuff like that. But most of them also began in high school. So with moving a lot, we switched churches a lot and stuff. I had moved like 13 times by the time I was like, what grade? Like 9th grade or something like that. So it was a lot of moving around. So when we actually got to Georgia, which is where I lived until I moved here, we had gone to several different churches, and honestly, I'm gonna do a plug for new people right here. It was really hard to find a church because the youth group people were not welcoming. It was really hard to find friends and stuff, and we started going to this one church, which is the church I went to, and people came up and were like, hi, welcome, and started talking to us and stuff like that. And anyways, so when new people come, you should welcome them and hang out with them and talk to them. Okay, I just wanted to say that. Anyways, so the first person I would have actually considered one of my mentors was actually my youth pastor. Not just saying, I mean, youth pastors are awesome. But I never met one-on-one with my youth pastor. I feel like that'd be kind of weird because I'm a girl. But I was a part of several different things that I think I started going there about 10th grade. But I was a part of Bible studies. I was a part of a Wednesday, so we met on Sunday nights for youth group. It's just our church did it. But I was a part of a Wednesday night study that was a smaller group. And then when I went into college, I was involved in a smaller Bible study at my church. But anyways, the reason why I put Mark was my youth pastor's name. I don't know if I said that. I might have said that. The reason why I added him to the list was because I feel like it was one of the first people that actually challenged me to walk with the Lord. It was someone who I always loved how he was like, hey, don't sit on the fence. If you are going to follow Jesus, do so, but don't, have one foot in the world and have one foot in church or whatever. So it just was constantly spoken by him as we went through all our different studies and such. So yeah, just that challenging was one really big thing that like was constantly in my life. And so I think when it comes to mentors, like it is something we want to challenge you to do is like, hey, we want to see you love Jesus and walk with him. But along with that, so in those different Bible studies we also would spend time in scripture, we'd spend time in books that were hard to understand. And one of the biggest things like I learned from him was don't be afraid to challenge people. Don't be afraid to be like, oh, I know you're saying that about the Bible, but is that actually like what it's saying? Go find out for yourself. And so I felt like it was one of the first times someone was just like, hey, no, go read the Bible and see what God says. So that's my first point in the corner. Was just to be faithful to God. So I feel like that was like the big key thing I learned through that was just like, don't, sit on the fence, follow Jesus. If you're going to do it, follow him wholeheartedly, and don't be afraid to, find out for yourself what the Bible is saying. So, I need to drink water really quick. Not really quick, it's going to be slow. Water is important.
Just like Jesus. I agree.
Yes, that's why it's called living water. The next person, I actually have no idea how I'm not myself here. I'm sorry, I'm really distracted. Was Angela, and I actually cannot remember when I met her. I was sitting there the other day trying to think of it, and I was just like, I can't remember. I know she was a leader at youth group. I know she wasn't like a lot of the leaders that were like, 20-something. She's a little older than that. But what I do remember about her is that it was another informal thing that I just started hanging out with her, and she loved the Lord. So I would go to her house. I would just tell her about life. I felt so comfortable telling her everything. So I would go and just say, here's what's going on. And she would just sit there with the most wonderful listening ear and just look at me and be like, yeah. And I just remember, I still talk to her actually. We're pretty good friends at this point too. But I just remember her constant ability to just carefully listen to me, and that meant a lot. And also it was just so cool to see, she's a mom, and just I would go over to her house to see, what she did, how she interacted with her kids, and just things that I really needed to see modeled. Not that my parents didn't model those things necessarily, but it was really great to see someone who is not my parent, because, you don't pay attention to your parents that way. I didn't. I was kind of like, they're my parents, they're telling me what to do. So, with that, I felt like I really learned how I can trust God to use other people just to teach me about who he is, and that they were going to be great. And so I put Hebrews 24:25, but then I didn't write it down right here. So, I did. It's pulled up on my phone. But this just said, and let us consider how to stir one another up to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together as the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Granted, that is part of a bigger passage that has lots of other things involved, but I thought of that immediately when I thought of mentorship and spending time with other people. Is like, we're supposed to do this, we're supposed to meet together, we're supposed to learn from other people. And so I always think of that, as I'm interacting with people who are wiser and older than me. So, really appreciated that. I'm gonna flip my piece of paper now. The last people I just wanted to add, and it's interesting because you can have so many little experiences, and by the time my age, and as I started to look at it, I was like, oh, I need to pick who I'm going to talk about. So the last people were Lisa and Kiersey. I did an internship in Canada for a summer, and these people actually just ended up becoming my friends. But at first, I was 10 years younger than both of them. One of them was actually my mentor for the trip. I was interning at their church, and so she was in charge of that. But they were really great, and I was going through a really hard time when I started interning at a church, which probably wasn't a super healthy thing, but I just remember being able to talk to them and just enjoy being with them. I remember so many times of us just laughing and crying together, and so I always was just like, wow, you can interact with people who are your mentors or who are discipling you, and it can be fun and it can be enjoyable. It doesn't just have to be, okay, we're sitting here, we meet together, okay, time's up, done. I don't have to interact with you anymore. So that was one of the other things. I just learned to laugh, to enjoy being discipled, and just love hanging out with them. So with all that though, one thing that as I was praying about this that came to mind was just the fact that when you meet with someone and they mentor you, get distracted, sorry, and they meet with you, it doesn't always work out amazingly and it's not always easy. I don't know why this just kept coming up to my mind when I was looking through it, but I think one thing I really struggled with and still struggle with sometimes when I, am in a mentor type relationship is just doubt. Just thinking, I can't learn this. I'm not smart enough to figure out anything from the Bible. Why do I even bother? I'm not, for example, my husband is just such a reader, and I'm like, I'm not a reader, I'm not gonna be able to spend time doing this. I thought that a lot in high school and in college especially. And then the other thought is just like, why would they even want to spend their time with me? These people are busy, they're older than me, they have so much going on. Why would, there's no point. I mean, they say they want to hang out with me and do these things, but I don't think they actually do. So, I would think those things, and the reality of it is that's a lie. If someone can't meet with you, they're probably going to be like, hey, this isn't going to work right now, I'm sorry. But it came to mind just how in 1 Peter 5:8, it just says, be sober-minded, be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking someone to devour. And it instantly popped into my head because I'm like, that's what was happening. Like, these people, like people in your lives too, want to meet with you. They want to tell you about Jesus. They want you to know the joy of knowing him and growing and reading his word. But the devil is just like, hey, I don't really want that, so I'm going to do everything I can to stop that from happening. Because, of course, what does your enemy want? He wants to thwart anything that could happen that would be good and helpful. And moving you towards Jesus, let me say that's very specific because I'm sure he doesn't care about other things. But if you are someone who desires to know more about God, who wants to follow him, he is going to try and get rid of that because he doesn't want that to happen. So I did learn that being mentored can be challenging, and it's a lot of times easy to just, doubt that it's going to work, doubt that it can be anything. And so that was my other point because, the slide. Okay, anyways, the next thing is different times I have mentored other people. So I have had a few different experiences. I have not always done a great job at mentoring people, but the times that I was able to really invest in people was so encouraging and great. So my first experience with that was in Georgia. My first experience was I was in high school. So I was probably in 11th grade. I was in 11th grade. But I was able to meet with a few of the middle school girls. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea whatsoever. I just was like, okay, we should hang out with them. Okay, Jesus. I really had no idea what to do. But it was a cool experience just to be like, okay, I know I really want to see these middle schoolers love Jesus. I really want to see them grow. So I'm going to hang out with them and see what happens. And so it was really intimidating and I didn't know what I was doing, but I really just saw the ability for God to just be able to be like, let me help you. This is part of my plan. I love how Joe brought up the Great Commission, Matthew 28:19. References or not, I think. Okay, but where it just says, go make disciples of all nations. I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be a part of seeing other people come to know Jesus and love him and walk with him. So it was really hard, but I knew and I learned through that, and then through as I went to college, I got the chance of mentoring high school girls. I knew that I could rely on God to give me wisdom because they would ask me the hardest questions. Even sometimes with helping with kids church here, because I know several of y'all do that, I was just like, I don't know what you're asking. I don't know, but I learned it's okay to say I don't know when you're mentoring other people. So that was really helpful. And the other thing with that is, I've had some girls that I've mentored that have walked away and they don't love Jesus anymore. And it's really sad and it's really disappointing to see that. But ultimately, I know that God knows them and he can change their heart and I can continue to pray for them. And same with the girls who do love Jesus, who I've been able to interact with. So that was the biggest thing too, is I have the ability to pray for people. And so as I was thinking about it and honestly thinking through the many different people I've interacted with over the years, I'm like, wow, I'm not great at praying for these people. Even people that it's been 8 or whatever years since I've seen them. And that's something I can do is when I, scroll through my Instagram page and see they don't love Jesus. You can see that from their social media. Like, I could pause and pray for them. So I think that's super important when we, I don't know, you guys are kind of young, but like when you have had those relationships with people and to be able to be like, oh, I can pray for them. And you can also pray for people who mentor you, because we're not perfect, and we love prayer too, and we love it when other people are praying for us, because, just going back to the idea that, like, the devil just wants to destroy these things. He wants to cause people to not meet together. So overall, I just will summarize this really quick, but being mentor just taught me to be faithful, to not sit on the fence. Being mentor taught me I can trust God to use others in my life. It taught me that I can laugh and I can enjoy those relationships. And being able to mentor other people taught me I know God can teach me wisdom so that I can in turn teach other people. And it also taught me the importance of prayer. So, I'm going to pray to end our time because prayer is important. And I also have no idea how long that took. Okay, anyways. Father God, we thank you so much that we have the ability to gather together, God, that we can know who you are and that we can in turn talk to each other and encourage one another, God, that we can grow in wisdom, God, that we can disciple other people and help them see how amazing you are. God, I pray that if throughout this time talking about mentorship, God, that people here have decided, wow, I really need to pursue that, God, that they would be bold and ask people to mentor them, but God, also that they would consider who they can encourage and mentor themselves. So God, we just ask that you would give us wisdom in that. In your name, Jesus, amen.
My turn. Oh, thank you, Emma. That was amazing. Claps. Well, you just did that. But we have some extra time, so I'm here right now, okay? So, I just want to go through a couple quick things as we finish and go to smoker time. First, you may be wondering, why did we spend 4 weeks on mentorship? Because some of you who were here all 4 weeks might be like, we heard the same thing over and over and over. Yeah, you did. Because it's so important, and it's something that we want to just shove at you, because this is something that is going to impact your life going forward. If you can have adults in your life who love Jesus and love you and want to invest in you and teach you and even push you sometimes, those relationships are going to lead you so much farther. A lot of us have shallow relationships in our lives, and it's so important for us to have real, deep relationships with adults who love us. And like I said a couple weeks ago, the coolest thing about youth group is we have built that in. And as Hannah has spoken, she's a leader. As Joe spoke, he's a leader. The leaders that you have here at youth group are here not because I pay them a lot of money, but because they love. I don't pay them anything. Well, we do a meal once a month. There you go. Because they love you. So use that resource. Reach out to them. Let them love you in the way that they want to. So maybe in small group today, you ask them for maybe that deeper relationship, or maybe you want to go through something, or maybe you have a deep question that you're struggling with. I just really encourage you to ask your small group leader about that and to step out into that. And then lastly, as we've been talking about mentorship, we've also talked about just how important it is to mentor others. And I just once again encourage you to reach out, find maybe one of these young crazy people out there and just learn their name and learn something about them and follow up with that. And the main thing that I wanted to say as we finish is this idea of mentoring and being a leader is so important. And here at Youth Group, we want to give you guys opportunities to be leaders and to work in the gifts that God has given you. So that's kind of something that I'm working on right now, is doing some things with Youth Group that will allow some of you that want to mentor others and lead to have opportunities. Maybe that looks like some sort of like student leadership team, or maybe you guys serving in different areas here. But I just want you to know that we're talking a lot about you investing in the younger ones, but we actually want to give you practical ways to do that. So that's all I have to say, because Hannah did just an amazing job. That was so good. And I guess I'll just give you something to look forward to next week. It's like the Valentine's Day talk. We're going to talk about dating. We're going to talk about, let's get it. It's going to be super fun. So, it's going to be great. So come for that. We're gonna spill the tea, as the kids say. Okay? Yeah. Cool. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you. Find mentors, be mentors. We got like 10 minutes here, so we're gonna hang out, do some rock, paper, scissors, whatever you want to do, okay? And then we'll go to smoker time. When that time is there, I'll release you. Thanks, man.